If you're listening to this audiobook right now, it means something inside you has recognized a truth you can no longer ignore. You know there's more potential, more capability, more life waiting to be lived. And you're tired of watching it slip away while you drift through days that blur into weeks that fade into years. You're ready to stop drifting and start sailing. You're ready to force yourself to get it done. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine two people standing at the edge of the ocean. They both have boats. They both have destinations they dream of reaching. They both have the same hours in the day, the same fundamental human capabilities, the same basic opportunities that life presents. But one person sets sail while the other stays anchored at the dock, watching the horizon, waiting for perfect conditions, waiting for the right moment, waiting for the fear to disappear, waiting for motivation to strike like lightning from the heavens. 5 years pass. 10 years pass. The person who sets sail has crossed oceans, weathered storms, discovered new lands, become a master navigator, built strength and skill and wisdom. The person who stayed at the dock, they're still waiting, still preparing, still telling themselves someday, and when the time is right, and I'm just not ready yet. Still dreaming of destinations they'll never reach because they refuse to leave the safety of the harbor. Which person are you? Be honest, because if you're still at the dock, the good news is this: right now, in this moment, you can choose to set sail. You can choose to become the person who takes action instead of the person who waits for perfect conditions that will never come. You can force yourself to get it done. You see, I've often thought about the journey of success, and one key element always stands out: the sheer force of will to get things done. It's like sailing that ship. You can have the finest vessel, the best crew, the most detailed maps and sophisticated navigation equipment. But without actually setting a course and pushing forward, without hoisting the sails and catching the wind, without steering through waves and adjusting when conditions change, you'll simply drift. And drifting never leads anywhere meaningful. Drifting is just slow-motion failure dressed up as patience. Today I want to talk about that. The art of pushing yourself. The science of moving beyond ordinary to achieve extraordinary. The raw, unglamorous truth about what it actually takes to stop talking and start doing. Because let me tell you something that might be hard to hear. You don't have a knowledge problem. You have an execution problem. You know what you should do. You know you should eat better, exercise more, work on that business idea, have that difficult conversation, develop that skill, take that risk. You know, knowledge isn't your issue. Action is. Imagine, if you will, a person much like any one of us, standing at the crossroads of decision. Not just once, but every single day. Multiple times a day. Every morning when the alarm goes off, do I get up or hit snooze? Every moment at work, do I tackle the hard task or do the easy busy work? Every evening, do I invest time in my growth or collapse into mindless consumption? We face these crossroads constantly. These moments where our choices define us. And in these moments, it's not just about making decisions, but about making the right decisions even when, especially when, they're uncomfortable. Now I'm not talking about choosing what to have for breakfast or what shirt to wear. I'm talking about the choices that scare you, the choices that push you, the choices that force you out of your comfort zone into the uncertain territory where growth actually happens. I'm talking about the decision to start the business even though you might fail. The decision to have the difficult conversation, even though it might get uncomfortable. The decision to commit to the gym, even though you're out of shape and feel self-conscious. The decision to create something, even though it might not be perfect. These are the choices that matter. These are the crossroads that determine whether you drift or sail. You see, there's a powerful force within each of us. A force that most people leave completely untapped their entire lives. It's not talent. Plenty of talented people accomplish nothing. It's not intelligence. Plenty of smart people achieve far less than their potential. It's not even luck or opportunity, though those help. No, this force is far more fundamental and far more powerful than any of those things. It's the ability to compel ourselves to do what needs to be done even when everything in us wants to procrastinate, avoid, delay, or quit. Think about the last time you really didn't want to do something. Maybe it was a tough conversation you'd been avoiding for weeks. Maybe it was a project that seemed insurmountable, so complex and challenging that just thinking about it made you tired. Maybe it was apologizing to someone you'd wronged. Maybe it was looking at your bank account and facing financial reality. Maybe it was stepping on a scale and confronting the physical consequences of years of neglect. We've all been there, haven't we? That moment where the easier choice is to say, "I'll do it tomorrow." But here's the thing, and this is crucial to understand. Tomorrow becomes the next day, and the next day becomes next week, and next week becomes next month, and soon enough, what was a molehill becomes a mountain. The conversation you avoided becomes a destroyed relationship. The project you delayed becomes a missed opportunity. The apology you postponed becomes a permanent rift. The financial reality you ignored becomes a crisis. The health you neglected becomes a serious condition. What starts as, "I'll do it tomorrow," compounds into years of regret. In these moments, the difference between success and stagnation is devastatingly simple. Action. Not perfect action. Not elegant action. Not action that feels comfortable or comes naturally or happens when you're perfectly motivated. Just action. Imperfect, uncomfortable, uncertain action. Action is the foundational key to all success. It's not just about having knowledge or talent. It's about using that knowledge, harnessing that talent, applying it in the real world where results actually matter. You could have the intellect of Einstein, but without action, it's like having a library of books that you never read. The knowledge exists, the potential exists, but it might as well not exist because it's never applied, never tested, never used to create anything of value. I've met so many brilliant people who accomplish nothing because they never move from thinking to doing. They're perpetual students, perpetual planners, perpetual dreamers who never become doers. So how do we tap into this force? How do we push ourselves to take action, especially when it's tough, especially when we don't feel like it, especially when fear and doubt and discomfort are screaming at us to stay safe and comfortable? Well, that's the journey we're on together today. It's about understanding the why behind the what. It's about learning to embrace, not just tolerate, but actually embrace the discomfort of growth. Because let me tell you a truth that might change your life. Growth and comfort do not coexist. They are fundamentally incompatible. Every time you're comfortable, you're not growing. Every time you're growing, you're not comfortable. The discomfort is the signal that you're in the right place. I want you to think about a goal right now. A real goal, not some vague wish. Something specific you've been putting off. A dream you've been telling yourself you'll pursue someday. Hold that in your mind clearly as we embark on this discussion together. Because today isn't just about theories and words and feel-good platitudes. It's about transformation. Real transformation. The kind that changes your life from the inside out. It's about turning I can't into I will. And believe me, the journey from I can't to I will is where all the magic happens. That's where boys become men, where dreamers become achievers, where potential becomes reality. Let's dive into this together, shall we? Let's explore how we can harness this force within us. How we can turn the tide in our favor and truly set sail toward our dreams instead of staying anchored at the dock. Remember, it's not just about the destination. Success is important. Achievement matters. Reaching your goals is wonderful. But it's also about the journey. It's about who you become in the process. It's about the strength you develop, the character you forge, the person you become through the act of forcing yourself to do what needs to be done. This journey we're beginning together is about discovering the incredible power of self-discipline, the power to move mountains, the power to change your life completely, the power to become unstoppable. And I need you to understand something crucial. This journey is not for the faint of heart. It's not for people looking for shortcuts or life hacks or easy answers. It's for those who are willing to roll up their sleeves, to dig deep into places they've been avoiding, and to do the work. The kind of work that most people shy away from because it's hard, because it's uncomfortable, because it requires facing truths they'd rather avoid. But not you. We are different. We are the ones who are willing to look challenges in the eye and say, I am stronger than you. We are the ones who understand that the only limits that exist are the ones we place on ourselves. And we are ready to break those barriers and soar to new heights. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be easy. If it were easy, everyone would be doing it. If success required nothing but good intentions and positive thoughts, everyone would be successful. But I promise you this, it will be worth it. Every moment of discomfort, every instance of pushing through when you wanted to quit, every time you force yourself to do what needs to be done instead of what feels comfortable, all of it will be worth it. Because on the other side of discipline, on the other side of that hard work, lies the life you've always dreamed of. A life where you are the master of your fate, not the victim of your circumstances. A life where you control your days instead of your days controlling you. So let's begin this adventure together with open minds and willing hearts. Let's commit to ourselves, to our dreams, to the journey of forcing ourselves to get it done no matter what obstacles arise, no matter what discomfort we face, no matter what fear tries to stop us. Remember, it's not just about the goal. It's about who we become in the process of reaching that goal. It's about the strength we gain, the wisdom we acquire, and the character we build. Are you ready to take that first step? Are you ready to force yourself to get it done? Because I believe you can. I believe you will. And most importantly, you need to believe it too. Let's take this journey together, step by step, day by day, until we reach the pinnacle of our potential and become the person we were always meant to be. Chapter 1. The Power of Self-Discipline. Self-discipline, my friends, is the silent engine that drives success. It's not the loud, flashy part that everyone sees and celebrates. It's not the trophy or the promotion or the accomplishment. It's the invisible force working behind the scenes, day after day, in moments when no one is watching, when no one is cheering, when there's no external reward for doing the right thing. It's the inner strength that gets us out of bed on those cold mornings when the world seems to be against us and every fiber of our being wants to stay under the warm covers. It's the force that keeps us going when everything else says stop, when logic says quit, when emotion says give up. Self-discipline is not just a trait you either have or don't have. It's not genetic. It's not something you're born with or without. It's a way of life. It's a choice you make every single day, every single hour, sometimes every single moment. It's the decision to do what needs to be done regardless of how you feel about it. And here's something crucial to understand. Your feelings are the absolute worst guide for your actions. Your feelings will lie to you constantly. They'll tell you that you're too tired when you're just comfortable. They'll tell you that tomorrow is better when today is perfect. They'll tell you that you can't when you absolutely can. Imagine for a moment a world where everyone exercised perfect self-discipline. Picture people following through on every promise they made to themselves. Imagine everyone doing what they said they'd do, when they said they'd do it, regardless of how they felt in the moment. Imagine the achievements. Imagine the transformations. Imagine the problems that would be solved, the dreams that would be realized, the potential that would be unleashed. Now I know what you're thinking. That world sounds ideal, perhaps too good to be true, like a fantasy that could never exist in reality. But here's the secret that changes everything. That world begins with you, not with society, not with your boss or your spouse or your parents or your circumstances. With you. It starts the precise moment you decide to take control of your life. The moment you stop making excuses and start making progress. The moment you stop waiting for perfect conditions and start working with what you have. That moment is available to you right now. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Right now. You see, self-discipline is fundamentally about taking responsibility. Complete, total, uncompromising responsibility for your life and your results. It's about making choices instead of excuses. It's about saying no to the things that harm us, the extra drink, the pointless social media scroll, the gossip session, the junk food, the laziness, and yes to the things that help us grow even when those things are uncomfortable, even when they require effort, even when we'd rather do literally anything else. It's about making a commitment to yourself and keeping it. Not keeping it when it's convenient. Not keeping it when you feel motivated. Keeping it, period. Because here's something most people never learn. The promises you make to yourself are the most important promises you'll ever make. When you break a promise to yourself, you're teaching yourself that you're not trustworthy, that your word doesn't matter, that commitment is optional. Every time you say you'll do something and then don't do it, you're eroding your self-respect, your confidence, your belief in your own capability. It's easy to be disciplined when someone is watching, when your boss is monitoring your work, when your trainer is standing over you, when your spouse is checking on your progress. That's not discipline, that's compliance. True self-discipline is what you do when no one is looking. It's the choices you make in those quiet, unseen moments that truly define who you are. It's getting up and working out even though no one will know if you skip it. It's doing the work even though you could cut corners and no one would notice. It's maintaining your integrity even when you could lie and get away with it. These moments, these private choices, they're the ones that build character. Now let me talk about the rewards of self-discipline, because this is where it gets exciting. It's not just about getting things done, checking items off lists, being productive. Those are benefits, sure, but they're not the real reward. The real reward is the peace of mind that comes with knowing you're in control of your actions. It's the deep, unshakable peace that comes from looking yourself in the mirror and knowing you're becoming who you're supposed to become. It's the pride that comes from looking back at your day and realizing you did what you set out to do. You didn't negotiate with yourself. You didn't make excuses. You just did it. It's the confidence that grows every single time you keep a promise to yourself. This confidence, my friends, is absolutely priceless. It's not the fake confidence that comes from others telling you you're great. It's the real confidence that comes from proving to yourself that you can do hard things, that you can push through discomfort, that you can overcome challenges. This confidence spills over into every aspect of your life, lighting it up like the morning sun. It affects how you walk into rooms, how you speak to others, how you tackle challenges, how you see yourself. Everything changes when you develop real confidence through self-discipline. But let's not forget, self-discipline is also a challenge. It's not something you develop once and then you're done. It's not like learning to ride a bike where once you've got it forever. No, self-discipline is a muscle that needs constant exercise. Just like any muscle, can tire, can feel strained. You'll have days where your discipline feels strong, where doing the right thing comes easily. And you'll have days where it feels like you're dragging a boulder uphill, where every right choice requires supreme effort. But here's the beautiful part. That strain, that difficulty, That's just a sign that your discipline muscle is growing stronger. Each time you push through the temptation to give up, each time you force yourself to do what needs to be done despite not feeling like it, you're not just moving one step closer to your goal. You're also building your self-discipline muscle. You're teaching yourself at a deep, cellular level you can do hard things, that you can overcome challenges, that you have what it takes. And this lesson, this deep knowing that you're capable, this is victory in itself. Think about the last time you really pushed yourself. When you went beyond your comfort zone and did something that scared you. Maybe it was working on a project late into the night when you were exhausted. Maybe it was having a difficult conversation you'd been dreading. Maybe it was going to the gym when every part of you wanted to stay home. Maybe it was saying no to a temptation that would have derailed your progress. The cake when you're losing weight. The drink when you're getting sober. The purchase when you're saving money. How did you feel afterwards? Exhausted, maybe. Drained, possibly. But also exhilarated, right? Proud. Strong. Capable. That feeling. That's the power of self-discipline made manifest in your life. So self-discipline also means being able to delay gratification. This might be the most important aspect of all in our instant gratification world. We live in a time when everything is available immediately. Want food? Order it to your door in minutes. Want entertainment? Infinite options at your fingertips. Want information? Google it instantly. Want connection? Text, call, video chat immediately. We've become so accustomed to immediate satisfaction that the idea of waiting for anything feels almost painful. But real success, lasting success, meaningful success, it requires delayed gratification. It's about seeing the bigger picture. It's about understanding that the pain of discipline now, the discomfort of the workout, the sacrifice of the saved money, the effort of the work, the awkwardness of the difficult conversation, is nothing, absolutely nothing, compared to the pain of regret later, the regret of wasted potential, the regret of a body you let deteriorate, the regret of financial struggles that could have been prevented, the regret of relationships destroyed by avoided conversations, the regret of dreams that died because you never started. This is where many people falter. They mistake the easy road for the right road. They choose comfort today over success tomorrow. They choose pleasure now over pride later. They eat the dessert instead of keeping their diet. They skip the workout instead of building their health. They make the purchase instead of building their savings. They avoid the hard conversation instead of building their relationships. They watch TV instead of working on their goals. And each of these choices feels insignificant in the moment. Each one seems like it doesn't matter. But they compound. They accumulate. And years later, these people wonder why their lives didn't turn out the way they hoped. But not you. You're here because you're ready to choose the right road, no matter how challenging it may be. You're ready to delay gratification, to make sacrifices now for success later, to endure discomfort today for achievement tomorrow. Remember, self-discipline doesn't mean living a life of restriction and suffering and constant denial. That's a misconception that stops many people from even trying to develop discipline. They think it means no fun, no enjoyment, no spontaneity, no pleasure. That's not what discipline is about. Self-discipline means living a life of balance and intention and conscious choice. It's about knowing when to work hard and when to rest, when to push yourself and when to recharge, when to say yes and when to say no. It's about listening to your body, your mind, and your heart. It's about harmony between your different needs and goals. When you master self-discipline, you're not just mastering a skill. You're mastering life itself. You're becoming the architect of your own existence instead of just a passive occupant. You're taking the steering wheel instead of being a passenger. You're writing your story instead of letting circumstances write it for you. Let me be clear about something. Mastering self-discipline doesn't mean you'll never fail or falter or make mistakes. We're all human after all. You will have days where you fall short, days where you give in to temptation, days where you don't live up to your own standards. This is inevitable. It's part of the process. What separates successful people from unsuccessful people isn't that successful people never fail. It's how they respond to those failures. Do you let them defeat you? Do you use them as evidence that you're not capable, that discipline isn't for you, that you should just give up? Or do you use them as stepping stones to greater success? Do you analyze what went wrong, learn from it, and come back stronger? Every setback, every obstacle, every moment of weakness is an opportunity to practice self-discipline, to get back up, dust yourself off, and move forward with even more determination than before. The fall doesn't define you. The getting back up does. The failure doesn't define you. The lesson you extract from it does. The mistake doesn't define you. What you do next does. So as we journey forward together, let's embrace the power of self-discipline with open arms. Let's understand that it's the key to unlocking our full potential. It's the tool we need to carve out the life we dream of. It's the bridge between where we are and where we want to be. With self-discipline, there's nothing we can't achieve. No dream is too big. No goal is too distant. No transformation is too dramatic. As we wrap up this part of our discussion, I want you to hold on to the idea that self-discipline is your ally, your strength, and your guide. It's not your enemy. It's not a source of suffering. It's the light that leads you through the darkness. It's the force that pushes you when the road gets tough. Embrace it, nurture it, and watch as it transforms your life in ways you never imagined possible. Let's continue this journey with the determination to strengthen our self-discipline day by day, choice by choice. Together, we can make the impossible possible. Chapter 2. Defeating procrastination and laziness. Let's turn our focus now to a challenge that plagues virtually everyone at some point. The twin enemies of procrastination and laziness. These are not just minor inconveniences or small character flaws we can ignore. These are the thieves of time, the murderers of dreams, the enemies of progress and achievement. They sneak up on us like skilled pickpockets, whispering sweet lies. Later, tomorrow, when you feel more motivated, someday when conditions are perfect. But let me tell you with complete certainty, later is a dream killer, and someday is a thief of potential. Procrastination and laziness, they're like quicksand. The more we give in to them, the deeper we sink, and the harder it becomes to pull ourselves out. At first, it seems harmless. You skip one workout. You delay one project. You avoid one difficult conversation. No big deal, right? Wrong. Because it's never just one. It's a pattern that forms, a habit that builds, a lifestyle that develops before you even realize it's happening. Think about it honestly. How often have you said, "I'll start tomorrow"? How many times have you told yourself that Monday is the perfect day to begin, that next month is when you'll really commit, that next year is when everything will change, only to find that tomorrow brings its own set of excuses, its own reasons to delay, its own justifications for inaction? It's a cycle, a dangerous, destructive loop that keeps us spinning in place, burning energy, but never actually moving forward. We tell ourselves we're being strategic, that we're waiting for the right time, that we're preparing properly. But really, we're just avoiding the discomfort of starting. But here's the liberating news, the truth that can change everything if you let it sink in. Just as we can fall into this cycle, we can also break free from it. You're not trapped. You're not doomed to be a procrastinator forever. You're not genetically programmed for laziness. These are habits, patterns, choices, and they can be changed. The key is understanding what actually breaks the cycle, What actually defeats these enemies? And the answer is devastatingly simple. Action. Immediate, deliberate, and perfect action. It's the antidote to procrastination. It's the kryptonite to laziness. Now I know what you're thinking, because I've heard it 1,000 times. But it's hard to start. And you're right. You're absolutely right. Starting is often the hardest part. There's something about that initial movement from stillness to action that requires immense energy. It's like Newton's first law of motion applied to human behavior. Objects at rest tend to stay at rest, and objects in motion tend to stay in motion. When you're in rest mode, in procrastination mode, in lazy mode, it takes tremendous force to shift into action mode. But remember this, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, not a leap, not a marathon sprint, just a step. One small, imperfect, uncomfortable step. It's about taking that first small action. And it doesn't have to be a massive leap that transforms everything overnight. In fact, trying to make huge leaps is often counterproductive because it feels so overwhelming that you never start at all. The magic lies in the momentum you create. Think about pushing a car. The initial push requires all your strength, every muscle straining, everything you have just to get it to budge. But once it starts rolling, once momentum builds, it gets easier. You're still pushing, you're still working, but the resistance decreases. The same principle applies to overcoming procrastination and laziness. The hardest part is that initial push. Once you're moving, once momentum is on your side, continuing becomes much easier than starting ever was. So how do we start? How do we generate that initial momentum? First, by setting clear, achievable goals. Not vague wishes like, I want to be healthier, or I want to be successful. Specific goals. I will work out for 20 minutes 3 times this week. I will complete this project by Friday at 5 p.m. I will have this difficult conversation today before dinner. When your goal is clear, specific, and concrete, your focus sharpens. Procrastination thrives in vagueness. Clarity is its enemy. Then break these goals into smaller, bite-sized tasks. Tasks so small that it seems almost ridiculous not to do them. Don't tell yourself you need to write a book. Tell yourself you need to write 200 words. Don't tell yourself you need to completely transform your body. Tell yourself you need to do 10 push-ups. Don't tell yourself you need to revolutionize your career. Tell yourself you need to send 1 email, make 1 connection, learn 1 new skill. It's about tricking the mind, making the task seem so easy, so doable, so non-threatening that procrastination has no foothold, no excuse, no power. And what about laziness? How do we defeat the simple desire to do nothing, to take the path of least resistance, to choose comfort over effort? Laziness thrives in the absence of a compelling why. You need a why that's so powerful, so meaningful, so emotionally resonant that it pulls you out of the comfort of inaction, like a tractor beam. Your why can't be shallow or borrowed from someone else's expectations. It has to be yours. It has to matter to you deeply. Maybe your why is your children, wanting to be a role model they can be proud of. Maybe it's your health, not wanting to spend your later years sick and dependent. Maybe it's proving something to yourself, demonstrating that you're not the person you've been, that you're capable of more. Maybe it's a creative vision you need to bring into the world. Maybe it's financial freedom, so you never have to ask permission to live your life. Whatever it is, it needs to be like a beacon, cutting through the fog of laziness, reminding you constantly of the bigger picture, the reason you're doing what you're doing when doing nothing would be easier. But remember, it's not just about the external goals, as important as those are. It's also about respecting yourself. This is something most people never consider. Every time you overcome procrastination, every time you choose action over inaction, you're not just getting things done. You're building self-respect. You're proving to yourself that you're trustworthy, that your word matters, that you're capable. You're telling yourself through your actions, I am worth the effort. My dreams are worth the effort. My future self deserves the effort I put in today. And believe me, there's no feeling quite like looking in the mirror and knowing you've kept a promise to yourself, that you said you'd do something and you did it, that you're becoming the person you said you'd become. That's the kind of self-respect that builds empires, that changes lives, that creates unstoppable momentum. Let's also talk about environment, because it plays a crucial, often underestimated role in overcoming procrastination and laziness. Your environment is either supporting your goals or sabotaging them. There's rarely a neutral middle ground. Surround yourself with reminders of your goals, vision boards, written commitments, images that inspire you. Surround yourself with people who inspire you to act, who are themselves doers and achievers, who won't let you make excuses. Create a physical environment that encourages productivity, one that makes it easier to start and harder to quit. If you're trying to work out more, lay out your gym clothes the night before. Put your running shoes by the door. Make it as easy as possible to succeed and as difficult as possible to fail. If you're trying to write, create a dedicated writing space. If you're trying to eat healthier, remove junk food from your house. If you're trying to build a business, create an office space, even if it's just a corner of a room. Your environment shapes your actions far more than most people realize. Make yours a breeding ground for success, not a comfort zone for procrastination. And let's not forget the power of routine. A solid, well-structured routine can be a fortress against the onslaught of procrastination and laziness. When you have a routine, you don't waste precious energy deciding what to do next. It's already laid out for you. This frees up mental space for creativity, for problem solving, for productivity. Your routine becomes your default, your baseline, your protection against the chaos of choice fatigue and decision paralysis. Wake up at the same time. Start your day the same way. Have designated times for your important work. Build consistency into the structure of your life. This doesn't mean becoming robotic or losing spontaneity. It means creating a framework that supports your goals, so you're not starting from scratch every single day. Now, overcoming these challenges is not just about brute force and willpower, though those are important. It's also about understanding the root cause of your procrastination and laziness. This is where real transformation begins. Ask yourself with brutal honesty, why am I procrastinating? What am I avoiding? Because procrastination is rarely about the task itself. It's usually about something deeper. Often, procrastination is a symptom of fear. Fear of failure. What if I try and I'm not good enough? Fear of success. What if I succeed and then I have to maintain it? Fear of judgment. What if people criticize me? Fear of the unknown. What if this changes everything? Fear of inadequacy. What if I discover I can't do it? These fears hide beneath the surface, driving procrastination while we tell ourselves we're just tired or busy or waiting for a better time. Address these fears head on. Confront them. Name them. Examine them in the light of day. Ask yourself, is this fear based in reality or imagination? And even if the fear comes true, can I survive it? Can I learn from it? Can I grow through it? Usually, when you really examine your fears, you discover they're either unlikely to happen or survivable even if they do. And that realization robs them of their power to keep you stuck. And in those moments when you do fall prey to procrastination or laziness, because you will, we all do, don't compound the problem by beating yourself up. Don't spiral into shame and self-judgment. That just creates more resistance to starting again. Remember, we're all human. We all have weak moments. The key is not to dwell in that space, not to set up camp there. Acknowledge it, learn from it, and then step back into action with renewed vigor and deeper understanding. Here's a practice that can revolutionize your relationship with procrastination. Celebrate your victories, no matter how small. Every task completed, every moment of laziness overcome, every instance of choosing action over avoidance is a victory worth celebrating. These celebrations create positive associations with taking action. They train your brain to see action as rewarding, not just as hard work. They build momentum. They create an upward spiral instead of a downward one. Did you make that phone call you've been avoiding? Celebrate it. Did you start that project you've been delaying? Celebrate it. Did you go to the gym even though you didn't feel like it? Celebrate it. These celebrations don't have to be big or expensive. They just need to be acknowledgments that you're making progress, that you're becoming the person you want to be, that you're building the life you want to live. Remember this truth. Procrastination and laziness are not your destiny. They're not who you are. They're habits you've developed, often unconsciously, often as coping mechanisms for deeper issues. But habits can be changed. Patterns can be broken. And the person who's been waiting to emerge, the disciplined, action-oriented, achievement-focused version of you, is ready to step forward the moment you choose to let them. The battle against procrastination and laziness is won in small moments, in tiny decisions, in the accumulation of choices that compound over time. Win enough of these small battles, and you win the war. Take enough of these small actions, and they add up to massive transformation. It's not about being perfect. It's about being persistent. It's not about never procrastinating again. It's about catching yourself faster, recovering quicker, and building momentum that makes action easier than inaction. So make the choice right now. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Not when you feel ready. Right now. What's one action you can take in the next 5 minutes that moves you toward your goal? What's one small task you can complete right now? Do it. Just do it. Feel the satisfaction of completing it. Feel the momentum it creates. And then do the next thing. And the next. That's how you defeat procrastination and laziness. Not through massive willpower or perfect motivation, but through consistent action. One small step at a time, building unstoppable momentum that carries you toward the life you're meant to live. Chapter 3. Building habits that transform your life. It becomes crystal clear when you study success at its deepest level that the building blocks of extraordinary achievement are often the smallest, most mundane actions imaginable. I'm talking about habits. Yes, habits, those little routines. Those daily acts that we perform almost without thinking, often while our conscious mind is focused on something else entirely. They might seem insignificant on their own, barely worth mentioning when you look at them in isolation. But cumulatively, habits hold the power to completely transform our lives. This is where personal growth either blossoms into its full potential or withers on the vine before it ever has a chance to flower. You see, habits are like the threads in a tapestry. Each individual thread might seem inconsequential, thin and fragile, easily broken. But together, woven properly, they create a picture of our lives, the full image of who we are and what we accomplish. The quality of our habits determines the quality of that tapestry. Good habits, positive daily actions repeated consistently, lead to a life of strength, beauty, meaning, and achievement. Bad habits, negative patterns repeated unconsciously, lead to a life that, like a poorly woven tapestry, can easily come undone, unraveling when faced with the slightest challenge. Think about this for a moment and really let it sink in. How many of our days are spent on autopilot? We wake up, and without conscious thought, we follow the same patterns we followed yesterday and the day before and the day before that. We check our phones. We hit snooze or we get up. We brush our teeth the same way. We take the same route to work. We eat similar foods. We engage in the same activities. Before we know it, the day is gone, and we've spent most of it in unconscious repetition of established patterns. Now imagine if those routines, those habits that run on autopilot, were all designed intentionally to propel you toward your goals instead of away from them or nowhere at all. Imagine if every automated behavior you had was moving you in the direction of your dreams. That's the power of intentional habit formation. It's not about controlling every moment of your day. It's about programming your autopilot to take you where you want to go instead of where your past patterns have been taking you. But how do we form good habits? Where do we even begin when our lives are already full of established patterns, many of them working against us? It starts with awareness. Before you can change anything, you must first become a keen, honest observer of your own life. You have to develop the ability to step outside yourself and watch your own behavior as if you were studying someone else. This requires brutal honesty and the willingness to see things you might not want to see. Ask yourself these crucial questions. What are my current habits? Not what I wish they were or what I tell people they are, but what they actually are. What do I actually do every day? What behaviors am I actually repeating? And here's the hard part. Are these habits serving me or holding me back? Are they moving me toward my goals or away from them? This level of self-awareness is the essential first step toward meaningful change. Without it, you're just shooting in the dark, hoping to hit a target you can't even see. Once you've identified the habits you need to change, and this might take some time and honest self-reflection, it's about starting small. This is where most people fail in habit formation. They try to overhaul their entire lives overnight, believing that extreme measures will produce extreme results quickly. That's like trying to lift a weight that's far too heavy for your current strength. It's unsustainable. You might manage it for a day or two, running on pure willpower and motivation, but that willpower depletes. That motivation fades, and then you crash back to your old patterns, often worse than before, because now you've also added the burden of failure and disappointment. Instead, start with small, almost ridiculously manageable changes. Want to exercise more? Don't commit to an hour at the gym 7 days a week. Start with a 10-minute walk each day. That's it. Just 10 minutes. Small successes build momentum, and momentum is what transforms small changes into massive results over time. Those small successes create positive associations. They train your brain to see change as achievable rather than overwhelming. They build confidence in your ability to keep commitments to yourself. But forming new habits isn't just about adding new behaviors. It's also about unlearning, about breaking the chains of old, unproductive habits that are sabotaging you. This is where discipline, that quality we discussed earlier, becomes absolutely essential. It's about making choices that align with your new goals even when, especially when, it's uncomfortable. Even when your old patterns are screaming at you to return to what's familiar. Remember, comfort is often the enemy of growth. Your current habits, even the bad ones, feel comfortable because they're familiar. Your brain doesn't distinguish between good comfortable and bad comfortable. It just seeks comfort, familiarity, predictability. So when you try to change a habit, you're fighting against your brain's natural tendency to return to what it knows. This is why discipline is non-negotiable. You need the ability to override your comfort-seeking impulses in service of your long-term goals. And speaking of growth, let's not forget the absolutely critical role of consistency. Consistency is the secret ingredient in habit formation. It's the difference between people who talk about change and people who actually change. It's not what we do once in a while that shapes our lives. It's not the occasional burst of motivation or the sporadic effort that creates lasting transformation. It's what we do consistently, day after day, even when we don't feel like it, even when it's hard, even when no one is watching. This might mean making small sacrifices, waking up earlier than you want to, turning off the TV to focus on a personal project, saying no to immediate pleasures in favor of long-term rewards. These sacrifices might seem significant in the moment. In fact, they often do. But in the grand scheme of things, in the context of the life you're building, they're the price of success. They're the investment that pays dividends for decades. Now, forming new habits is not a solo journey. Despite what individualistic culture might tell us, we are fundamentally social creatures, and we're heavily influenced by those around us. The people you surround yourself with will either lift your habits or drag them down. It's unavoidable. Surround yourself with disciplined, focused individuals, and you'll find it much easier to adopt those traits yourself. Their standards become your standards. Their normal becomes your normal. Their habits influence your habits through simple proximity and observation. If you want to develop better eating habits, spend time with people who eat well. If you want to build a business, surround yourself with entrepreneurs. If you want to read more, join a book club. If you want to exercise regularly, find a workout partner. Your environment and your social circle create the context in which your habits either flourish or fail. Make sure that context is working for you, not against you. And remember, habits don't just impact our actions. They shape our identity at the deepest level. Every time you practice a good habit, you're not just getting closer to your goal. You're also telling yourself at a subconscious level, this is who I am. You're building an identity as someone who takes action, who values discipline, who strives for excellence, who keeps commitments. This identity, formed through repeated action, becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, propelling you forward with increasing ease as it solidifies. Think about it. If you exercise every day for months, you stop seeing yourself as someone trying to get fit. You start seeing yourself as someone who exercises. That's just what you do. That's who you are. And once that identity shift happens, maintaining the habit becomes exponentially easier because it's no longer a foreign behavior you're forcing yourself to do. It's an expression of who you are. But let's be honest and realistic, because honesty is crucial here. Change is hard. Breaking old habits and forming new ones might be one of the hardest things you ever do. Old habits die hard, as the saying goes, and there's profound truth in that. There will be days when you'll falter, when the old ways will beckon like a siren song, promising the familiar comfort of your past patterns. In those moments, it's crucial to remember why you started this journey in the first place. Reflect on your goals, your dreams, your vision for your life. Remind yourself that every habit, no matter how small it seems, is a step toward that vision. Every time you choose the new habit over the old, you're voting for the person you want to become. You're investing in your future self. And your future self is watching, is grateful, is depending on these choices you're making today. And when you do slip up, and you will, because you're human, don't beat yourself up. Don't spiral into shame and self-judgment. Growth is not a linear journey upward and to the right like a perfect graph. It's a series of ups and downs, successes and setbacks, progress and regression. What matters most is not that you stumbled, but that you have the courage to get back up. Each time you do, you're strengthening your resolve, your discipline, your commitment to your new habits. You're proving to yourself that you're serious about this transformation. Now let's talk about the power of routine, because a solid routine can serve as a powerful framework for your habits. It gives your day structure, a rhythm that makes it easier to incorporate new habits and discard old ones. Think of it as scaffolding for your life. As you build new habits, this scaffolding supports you, guiding you upwards toward your goals, providing structure when motivation wanes, creating momentum when willpower runs low. A well-designed routine removes decision fatigue. Instead of constantly deciding what to do next and when to do it, draining your limited willpower with endless choices, your routine makes those decisions for you. You've already decided that you work out at 6 a.m., that you work on your business from 8 to 10 a.m., that you read for 30 minutes before bed. These aren't daily decisions anymore. They're established patterns, automated behaviors that happen with minimal resistance. And as you work on building these habits, be patient with yourself. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither are lasting habits. They require time, repetition, and persistence. Research suggests it takes anywhere from 21 to 66 days to form a new habit, depending on the complexity of the behavior and the individual. But the rewards are absolutely worth the effort. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that the habits you once struggled with are now second nature. That's a sign of true personal growth. That's evidence that you've successfully reprogrammed yourself. Here's something powerful to consider: the compound effect of habits. Small habits don't stay small. They compound over time, creating results that are often exponentially greater than the sum of their parts. Reading 10 pages a day doesn't seem like much, but over a year, that's 3,650 pages, potentially 12 to 15 books. Working out for 20 minutes a day doesn't seem significant, but over a year, that's over 120 hours of exercise, enough to completely transform your body. Saving $5 a day doesn't feel like a sacrifice, but over a year, that's $1,825, enough to change your financial situation. Small habits, repeated consistently, create massive transformations. They're the invisible architecture of success. Most people overestimate what they can accomplish in a day and underestimate what they can accomplish in a year through consistent daily habits. Don't make that mistake. So let's embrace the power of habits. Let's recognize them as the tools they are. Tools that can either build us up or tear us down. There's no neutral middle ground. Every habit is either serving your goals or sabotaging them. Every repeated behavior is either constructing the life you want or destroying it brick by brick. Let's choose our habits wisely, cultivate them with care and intention, and watch as they transform our lives one day at a time, one small action at a time, one repeated behavior at a time. As we wrap up this part of our discussion, hold on to the thought that your habits are actively shaping your future right now, in this very moment. The choices you make today, the routines you follow this week, the patterns you establish this month, they're writing the story of your life. They're determining who you'll be in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years. Let's write a story of success, of growth, of becoming the best version of ourselves possible. With the right habits, intentionally chosen and consistently practiced, there's no limit to what we can achieve. Let's continue to build those habits, step by step, day by day, choice by choice, until they lead us to the extraordinary life we've always dreamed of living. Chapter 4. Turning Challenges into Opportunities. As we navigate the landscape of habit formation and personal growth, as we push ourselves toward our goals with discipline and determination, we inevitably encounter challenges. This isn't a maybe or sometimes. It's a guarantee. Life will test your new habits, your newfound discipline, your commitment to change at every turn. It's as if the universe conspires to see how serious you really are about this transformation, throwing obstacles in your path to test your resolve. But here's a perspective I'd like us to consider. A shift in thinking that can revolutionize your entire approach to life. What if instead of viewing challenges as obstacles to be avoided, as problems that shouldn't exist, as evidence that we're on the wrong path, we saw them as opportunities? Opportunities to grow in ways we never could in comfort. Opportunities to learn lessons that can only be learned through difficulty. Opportunities to become stronger, wiser, more capable than we were before the challenge appeared. You see, challenges are a natural, inevitable part of life. They're not anomalies or punishments or signs of failure. They're the curriculum through which life teaches us its most valuable lessons. They're like the weights in a gym. Nobody walks into a gym hoping the weights will be light. The whole point is that they're heavy. Without resistance, without pushing against something difficult, we cannot grow stronger. The same principle applies to every area of life. Without facing challenges, without pushing through difficulty, we cannot develop our full capabilities. When we face a challenge, we're presented with a fundamental choice that defines not just the outcome of that particular situation, but who we become through the process. We can retreat in fear, telling ourselves we're not ready. It's too hard. Maybe later when things are easier. Or we can advance with courage, recognizing that ready or not, this is the moment, this is the test, and our response right now is writing our character. Each time we choose to face a challenge head-on, instead of avoiding it, we're not just overcoming that particular obstacle. We're building something far more valuable, resilience. We're developing problem-solving skills that will serve us for life. We're expanding the boundaries of our capabilities, discovering we can handle more than we thought. We're proving to ourselves, at the deepest level, that we're capable, that we're strong, that we can do hard things. Think about some of the greatest achievements in human history. Consider the innovations that changed the world, the scientific breakthroughs that redefined our understanding, the artistic masterpieces that moved millions, the businesses that transformed industries. Were any of them born out of comfort and ease? Did they emerge from people sitting around in pleasant circumstances? Everything going smoothly? No, absolutely not. They were born out of challenge, out of the need to solve a difficult problem, out of the necessity to overcome a seemingly insurmountable hurdle. It's in the crucible of challenge that greatness is forged, that ordinary people become extraordinary, that impossible becomes inevitable. But how do we actually turn challenges into opportunities? It's not enough to just say it. We need practical strategies, actionable approaches. It starts with mindset, the lens through which you interpret what's happening to you. A challenge viewed through the lens of fear and doubt appears as a massive barrier, an impenetrable wall, evidence that you should give up. The exact same challenge viewed through the lens of growth and learning becomes an opportunity, a teacher, a chance to level up. It's the same challenge. The only difference is your interpretation of it. This is not positive thinking or naive optimism. This is strategic reframing based on objective truth. Challenges do make us stronger when we rise to meet them. So when faced with difficulty, pause and ask, what can I learn from this? How can this make me better? What skills am I developing by working through this? Who am I becoming through this process? These questions shift your focus from the problem to the growth, from the pain to the gain, from victim to victor. Let me share a truth that might change your perspective forever. The most successful people you admire are not those who never face challenges. In fact, it's often the opposite. They've typically faced more challenges, bigger challenges, more devastating setbacks than average people. The difference isn't in the presence or absence of challenges. It's in how they responded. They understood that on the other side of every challenge lies an opportunity to advance, to improve, to emerge stronger and wiser. They welcomed challenges as teachers rather than fearing them as enemies. Now I won't sugarcoat it and pretend it's easy, because integrity demands honesty. Facing challenges head-on is not comfortable. It requires courage, real courage, the kind that makes your hands shake and your voice quiver, but you do it anyway. It requires determination, the grit to keep going when everything in you wants to quit. And it requires the willingness to step out of your comfort zone, to embrace uncertainty, to risk failure, But remember this always. The greatest growth often happens right at the edge of your comfort zone, in that space between comfortable and impossible, between easy and overwhelming. When you push yourself beyond what you thought was possible, when you accomplish something you weren't sure you could, when you survive something you thought might break you, that's where you find not just success, but fulfillment. That's where you discover what you're really made of. That's where you prove to yourself that you're capable of far more than you've been settling for. Another key to turning challenges into opportunities is adaptability, the capacity to change approach when circumstances change. In a world that's constantly evolving, where what worked yesterday might not work today, the ability to adapt is invaluable. When faced with a challenge, avoid rigidity. Don't keep banging your head against the same wall, expecting different results. Instead ask, how can I approach this differently? What new strategies can I employ? What resources haven't I considered? Who might be able to help me see this from a new angle? Flexibility in thought and action allows you to navigate challenges more effectively, turning what seemed like roadblocks into stepping stones. The challenge hasn't necessarily changed, but your approach to it has evolved, and that evolution is often what makes the difference between defeat and victory. It's also important, crucial really, to embrace support. Despite what individualistic culture might tell us, no one achieves greatness alone. The lone wolf mythology is just that, mythology. When faced with challenges, lean on your network. Seek out mentors who've overcome similar challenges. Talk to colleagues who might offer fresh perspectives. Turn to friends who can provide emotional support when you're struggling. Their wisdom, experience, and encouragement can be the catalyst you need to transform challenges into victories. There's no prize for struggling alone. There's no nobility in refusing help. The successful seek assistance. The unsuccessful insist on going it alone. And let's not forget the power of reflection after facing a challenge. This is where lasting learning happens. After you've pushed through, after you've overcome the obstacle or learned from the attempt, take time to reflect. What worked in your approach? What didn't? What did you learn about the challenge? More importantly, what did you learn about yourself? What capabilities did you discover you have? What fears did you realize were unfounded? What strategies proved effective? Reflection turns experience into insight, and insight is the key to turning future challenges into opportunities more quickly and effectively. Without reflection, you might overcome one challenge, but struggle with similar ones later because you didn't extract and internalize the lessons. With reflection, each challenge makes you permanently more capable of handling the next one. As we move forward in this journey together, let's carry this understanding. Challenges are not just hurdles to be cleared as quickly as possible so we can return to comfort. They are opportunities to be embraced, engaged with, learned from. They are the crucibles in which our greatest selves are forged. Every challenge you overcome, every difficulty you push through, every obstacle you navigate, it carves a little more of the masterpiece that is your life. It reveals a little more of who you really are beneath the surface. Remember, diamonds are formed under pressure. Steel is forged in fire. Gold is refined by heat. And the strongest aspects of your character, your most valuable capabilities, your deepest wisdom, they're all developed through challenge, through difficulty, through pushing beyond what feels comfortable or safe. So let's approach challenges with a fundamentally different attitude, not with dread or avoidance, not with why me, or this isn't fair, but with anticipation, curiosity, even excitement. Let's look at them as questions waiting to be answered, puzzles waiting to be solved, opportunities to demonstrate our growing capabilities. And as we solve them, as we overcome them, as we learn from them, let's celebrate the growth they bring. Let's acknowledge our progress, our increasing strength, our expanding capabilities. Let's use each victory, each lesson, each breakthrough to fuel our journey forward with greater confidence. Challenges are an inevitable part of life. There's no avoiding them, no matter how carefully you plan or how hard you try to play it safe. But how we respond to them, how we interpret them, how we grow through them, that defines our journey. That determines our destination. They can be roadblocks that stop us in our tracks, or they can be stepping stones that elevate us to new heights. The choice, always and forever, is ours. So choose to see them as opportunities. Choose to demonstrate your resilience, your adaptability, your creativity in the face of difficulty. Choose to become the kind of person who doesn't just survive challenges, but thrives because of them. Who doesn't just endure difficulty, but emerges transformed by it. With this mindset, with this approach, there is no challenge too great, no obstacle too daunting. Together, let's embrace our challenges, transform them into opportunities for growth, and in doing so, transform ourselves into the powerful, capable, unstoppable individuals we were always meant to become. Chapter 5. The Momentum Machine. How to become unstoppable. There's a phenomenon that separates those who achieve extraordinary results from those who remain stuck in mediocrity despite having similar talents, resources, and opportunities. It's not intelligence, though that helps. It's not luck, though that plays a role. It's not even discipline alone, though we've established how crucial that is. It's something more powerful, more transformative, more unstoppable than any of these individual elements. I'm talking about momentum. Momentum is the hidden force multiplier in achievement. It's what happens when all your efforts compound, when your actions start reinforcing each other, when progress begins to feed on itself and accelerate exponentially. It's the point where doing the work becomes easier than not doing it, where your new identity is so established that reverting to your old self would feel wrong. It's when you transition from pushing yourself uphill to being pulled forward by the gravity of your own progress. Think about a massive freight train. When it's sitting still at the station, getting it moving requires enormous energy. The engine strains, the wheels resist. Every inch of forward movement demands tremendous force. But once the train is moving, once momentum builds, it becomes nearly impossible to stop. It can barrel through obstacles that would have halted it completely when it was starting from rest. That same train, with that same engine, becomes exponentially more powerful simply because it has momentum working for it instead of against it. This is the power we're going to unlock in this chapter. Because understanding momentum, building it deliberately, and maintaining it relentlessly is what transforms people from those who make short-lived bursts of progress into those who achieve sustained, life-changing transformation. This is how you become unstoppable. Let's start by understanding what creates momentum in the first place. It's not one massive action. It's not a single heroic effort. It's not the dramatic transformation moment you see in movies. Real momentum is built through consistency, through showing up day after day after day, even when, especially when, you don't feel like it, even when progress isn't visible, even when doubt whispers that it's not working. Every single action you take toward your goal, no matter how small, adds to your momentum. It's like depositing money in a compound interest account. The first deposits seem insignificant. You put in $100, and you have $100. Big deal. But you keep depositing. $100 today, $100 tomorrow, $100 the next day. And slowly, imperceptibly at first, the compound interest starts working its magic. Your balance grows not just from your deposits, but from the returns on your previous deposits. The growth accelerates. What seemed impossibly slow at first becomes impossibly fast later. This is exactly how momentum works in achievement. Your first workout feels like torture and accomplishes little visible change. Your first day of focused work produces modest results. Your first attempt at any new skill is awkward and inefficient. But you keep going. You deposit another rep, another hour of work, another practice session. And gradually, the compound effect kicks in. Your second month of workouts is exponentially easier than your first week. Your 100th hour of focused work produces results your first hour never could. Your 1,000th practice repetition unlocks skill levels that seemed impossible when you started. But here's the critical insight most people miss. Momentum doesn't just make things easier. It fundamentally changes what's possible. When you have momentum, you can accomplish things that would be literally impossible without it. That freight train we talked about. With momentum, it can crash through obstacles, climb grades, maintain speed despite friction. Without momentum, those same obstacles are insurmountable barriers. The same principle applies to your goals. Without momentum, writing a book seems impossible. Where would you even find the time, the energy, the discipline? With momentum, with the habit established, with the identity of writer solidified, with dozens of productive sessions behind you, the book writes itself almost automatically. Without momentum, building a business feels overwhelming. So many tasks, so much uncertainty, so much work. With momentum, with systems established, with wins compounding, with confidence built, the business grows with what feels like inevitability. So how do we deliberately build this momentum? How do we shift from static to moving, from struggling to flowing? It starts with what I call the minimum viable action, the smallest possible step that still moves you forward. This is crucial because most people sabotage their momentum before it even begins by trying to do too much too fast. They decide they're going to transform their entire life overnight. They're going to work out 2 hours a day, completely overhaul their diet, start waking up at 5 a.m., build a business, learn a new language, and master meditation, all simultaneously, starting Monday. And you know what happens? They maintain this for maybe 3 days, maybe a week if they're really determined. Then they crash hard, and they conclude that they're just not capable of change, that transformation isn't for them, that they lack whatever special quality successful people have. But that's not the lesson. The lesson is that they tried to build momentum by doing the equivalent of pushing the freight train to top speed from a standing start. It doesn't work that way. You build momentum by starting small, by making the initial action so manageable, so non-intimidating, so achievable that there's virtually no resistance to doing it. Want to build a workout habit? Don't commit to an hour at the gym. Commit to putting on your workout clothes. That's it. Just put them on. Sounds ridiculous, right? But here's what happens. Once you're in your workout clothes, going to the gym becomes the path of least resistance. And once you're at the gym, working out becomes natural. You've eliminated the friction at each decision point by making each step laughably easy. Want to write a book? Don't commit to writing for 3 hours. Commit to opening your document and writing one sentence. One sentence. You can do that even on your worst day. And here's the magic. Once you've written one sentence, your brain is already engaged, your creative engine is already running, and you'll naturally write more. But even if you don't, even if some days you really do just write one sentence, you're still maintaining momentum. You're still making your deposit. You're still showing up. This is the minimum viable action principle. Make the bar so low that you can clear it every single day without exception. Because the momentum isn't built by how much you do on your best day. It's built by maintaining your streak, by showing up consistently, by never breaking the chain. Better to do 10 minutes every single day for a year than to do 3-hour sessions once a week. The consistency creates momentum. The intensity without consistency creates burnout. Now let's talk about what I call momentum amplifiers. the strategies that don't just maintain momentum, but accelerate it. The first amplifier is tracking visible progress. Humans are visual creatures, and we're motivated by seeing evidence of our progress. This is why weight loss challenges use before and after photos, why fitness apps show you streaks and badges, why savings apps show you graphs of your growing account balance. You need to create visual evidence of your momentum. This could be a calendar where you mark an X for every day you complete your commitment. Seeing those X's accumulate, seeing the streak grow, seeing the physical evidence that you're showing up. This is psychologically powerful. It makes the invisible visible. It shows you that momentum is building even when you can't feel it yet. Jerry Seinfeld, one of the most successful comedians of all time, famously used this technique. He committed to writing jokes every single day, and he marked each day he completed this task on a large wall calendar. His only goal was to not break the chain. That visual representation of his momentum became a powerful motivator. After a few weeks of unbroken excess, the last thing he wanted to do was see a gap in that chain. The momentum itself became the motivation. The second amplifier is incremental progression. Once you've established your baseline momentum, once showing up consistently has become automatic, you can gradually increase the challenge. If you started with 10 minutes of daily writing, and you've maintained that for a month, bump it to 15 minutes. If you started with 1 push-up a day, and you've done it for 6 weeks straight, try 5 push-ups. The key word is gradually. You're not abandoning your minimum viable action. That remains your floor, your guaranteed commitment. You're just raising the ceiling as your capacity expands. This incremental progression is how marathon runners train. They don't try to run 26 miles on day one. They start with maybe a mile, maintain that consistently, then gradually increase. The momentum they build from consistent short runs gives them the foundation to eventually handle marathon distances. Without that momentum foundation, they'd injure themselves or burn out trying to do too much too soon. The third amplifier is what I call the momentum network effect. This is when you start connecting your different momentum streams so they reinforce each other. Maybe you've built momentum with morning exercise, and you've separately built momentum with healthy eating, and you've built momentum with consistent work on your business. Individually, these are powerful, but when you recognize how they support each other, how the exercise gives you energy for your work, how the healthy eating fuels your workouts, how the business success motivates you to maintain your health, they create a synergistic effect where each momentum stream makes the other stronger. This is how people seem to have it all together. They're not superhuman. They've just built multiple momentum streams that support and reinforce each other, creating a compound effect that makes maintaining everything easier than maintaining any one thing alone would be. Now let's address the dark side of momentum, because understanding this is crucial. Negative momentum is just as powerful as positive momentum, and it works exactly the same way. Just as positive actions compound, so do negative ones. Just as showing up consistently builds a powerful identity, so does consistently failing to show up. Just as small wins create confidence, small failures create doubt. This is why breaking a streak feels so devastating. It's not just about missing one day. It's about the negative momentum that can begin from that one break. You miss one workout, and suddenly missing the next one is easier. You skip one day of work on your project, and suddenly it's easier to skip 2 days. You break your diet once, and suddenly you're back to old eating patterns. The negative momentum builds just as surely as positive momentum does, and it can unravel weeks or months of progress shockingly fast. This is why protecting your momentum is non-negotiable. This is why you maintain your minimum viable action even on terrible days, even when you're sick, even when life is chaotic. Because maintaining the momentum, keeping the streak alive, Honoring your commitment, even in a minimal way, prevents the negative momentum from starting. Better to do one push-up on a terrible day than to do none and risk starting to slide backward. But what happens when life does intervene? When you do break the streak despite your best efforts? When sickness or emergency or unavoidable circumstances interrupt your momentum? This is where the concept of momentum recovery becomes essential. You need a protocol for getting back on track as quickly as possible, for rebuilding momentum before the break becomes a pattern. The protocol is simple but not easy. Immediate re-engagement. Not tomorrow. Not Monday. Not next month when things settle down. Immediately. The moment circumstances allow. You're back to your minimum viable action. You're not trying to make up for lost time. You're not punishing yourself with triple workouts or marathon work sessions. You're simply re-establishing the pattern, restarting the momentum, getting back on the train before it's left the station. And here's a crucial mindset shift. Don't see the break as a failure. See it as data. What caused the break? How can you protect against that in the future? What systems need to be more robust? What commitments need to be adjusted? Learn from it, adjust based on it, and move forward. The only real failure is failing to restart. Let me share something that might change how you see your entire journey. Momentum is self-reinforcing in ways that go far beyond just making tasks easier. When you have momentum, you start to see yourself differently. Your identity shifts. You're no longer someone trying to be disciplined. You're a disciplined person. You're no longer someone who wants to be fit. You're someone who works out. You're no longer aspiring to success. You're someone who takes action toward their goals every single day. This identity shift is the ultimate expression of momentum because it changes what feels natural. When your identity is, I'm someone who shows up, then not showing up feels like betraying yourself. When your identity is, I'm a person who does what needs to be done, then procrastination feels uncomfortable. Your momentum has literally changed who you are at the identity level, and that identity now maintains the momentum automatically. This is what being unstoppable actually means. It doesn't mean you never face obstacles or challenges or setbacks. It means your momentum is so well established, your identity is so solidified, your systems are so robust that these things slow you down but don't stop you. You're like that freight train. Obstacles that would have been insurmountable at the beginning are now minor inconveniences. Hills that would have been impossible to climb are now barely noticeable. You've become unstoppable not because you're now superhuman, but because you've built such powerful momentum that stopping would actually be harder than continuing. There's also a psychological phenomenon I want you to understand, what I call the momentum horizon. This is the point where your momentum becomes self-sustaining, where the work starts to feel easier than not working, where discipline feels more natural than laziness. Different people hit this horizon at different times. It might be 30 days for some habits, 90 days for others, 6 months for major life changes. But it exists for everything. Before the momentum horizon, everything feels like a push. You're forcing yourself. You're exercising discipline. You're resisting temptation. It's work. But after crossing the momentum horizon, there's a shift. The new behavior feels natural. The old behavior feels foreign. Maintaining your progress feels easier than abandoning it. You've literally rewired your brain through consistent action, and now the momentum carries you. The tragedy is that most people quit right before reaching their momentum horizon. They've put in weeks of difficult, disciplined effort. They're exhausted from pushing. They don't see dramatic results yet. They don't feel the ease that's coming. So they quit, often just days or weeks before the breakthrough, just before momentum would have kicked in and made everything easier. Don't be that person. Understand that the difficulty is temporary. The momentum horizon is coming. You just have to persist long enough to reach it. Let's talk about scaling momentum, because this is where life transformation happens. Once you've built momentum in one area, you can use that success as a template for other areas. The confidence you gained from building a workout habit, that transfers to building a business. The discipline you developed from writing daily, that applies to learning a new skill. The identity shift from becoming someone who follows through, that affects everything. This is momentum scaling, using your success in one domain to build momentum in others. You're not starting from scratch each time. You're leveraging the psychological capital, the confidence, the proven ability to change that you've built in one area and applying it to new challenges. This is how people seem to transform their entire lives in relatively short periods. They're not doing everything at once. They're building momentum in one area, establishing it fully, then using that momentum to launch into the next area. And here's something powerful about momentum that most people never realize. It's attractive. People are drawn to momentum. When you're clearly someone who's moving forward, who's making progress, who's taking action consistently, opportunities start appearing. Connections happen. Resources materialize. Not because of magic or luck, but because people want to be associated with momentum. Success attracts success. Progress attracts opportunity. Momentum attracts everything you need to maintain and accelerate that momentum. This is the momentum magnet effect, and it's real. When you're stuck, opportunity seems scarce and support seems absent. When you're moving with momentum, doors open that you didn't even know existed. People offer help you didn't ask for. Resources appear when you need them. This isn't mystical. It's practical. People, opportunities, and resources naturally flow toward those who are already moving, already progressing, already demonstrating momentum. Now let me give you the ultimate framework for building and maintaining momentum, what I call the unstoppable system. It has 5 components, and implementing all 5 will make you virtually unstoppable. First, the non-negotiable minimum. This is your minimum viable action that you commit to doing every single day, no matter what. It's set low enough that you can do it even on your worst day, even when sick, even when traveling, even when life is chaos. This protects your streak and maintains your momentum through any circumstance. Second, the ideal target. This is what you aim for on normal days when life isn't throwing obstacles at you. It's higher than your minimum, but still realistic. This is where most of your growth happens. Third, the stretch goal. This is what you do on great days when energy is high and circumstances align. It pushes your boundaries and accelerates your progress. Fourth, the recovery protocol. This is your plan for getting back on track immediately if you do break your streak. It's not punishment. It's a clear, specific action you take to restart momentum before the break becomes a pattern. Fifth, the progress tracker. This is how you make your momentum visible. Calendar, app, journal, spreadsheet, whatever works, but it must show you clear evidence of your consistency and progress. Implement these 5 components for any goal, and you're not just building momentum, you're creating an unstoppable force in your life. You've systematized success. You've removed the dependence on motivation or willpower or perfect circumstances. You've created a machine that generates momentum automatically. And here's the beautiful thing about becoming unstoppable through momentum. It frees you. Most people think discipline and momentum mean restriction and rigidity, but the opposite is true. When you have powerful momentum in the important areas of your life, you have more freedom, not less. You have the freedom that comes from knowing you're making progress. The freedom from anxiety about whether you're doing enough. The freedom from the guilt of wasted potential. The freedom from the fear that you'll look back with regret. Real freedom isn't doing whatever you want in the moment. That's just slavery to impulse and circumstance. Real freedom is becoming someone who consistently does what needs to be done, building the life you actually want, creating the future you actually desire. That's what momentum gives you. That's what being unstoppable means. So as we conclude this chapter, I want you to commit to building your momentum. Start today, not tomorrow. Today. Identify your minimum viable action for your most important goal. Make it laughably easy. Commit to doing it every single day for the next 30 days. Track it visibly. Protect the streak. Watch as momentum builds. Feel as it becomes easier. Notice as your identity shifts. Experience as you become unstoppable. Because that's what's available to you. Not someday. Not when you're ready. Not when circumstances are perfect. Right now, the momentum machine is yours to build. The unstoppable force is yours to become. All it takes is starting, and then not stopping. That's it. That's the secret. Start and don't stop. Build momentum and protect it. Become someone who shows up, day after day after day, until showing up is just who you are. That's how you become unstoppable. That's how you transform your life. That's how you force yourself to get it done. Not through heroic acts of willpower, but through the accumulated power of momentum that makes the work flow naturally, that makes progress inevitable, that makes you genuinely unstoppable. Chapter 6. The Art of Taking Massive Action. We've talked about self-discipline, about overcoming procrastination, about building transformative habits, about turning challenges into opportunities, and about building unstoppable momentum. Now let's address the element that ties all of this together. The force that transforms knowledge into results, intentions into achievements, dreams into reality. I'm talking about action. Not just any action, but massive, consistent, determined action. The kind of action that changes everything. Because here's a truth that might be uncomfortable, but is absolutely essential to understand. You can have all the self-discipline in the world. You can overcome every tendency to procrastinate. You can build perfect habits. You can navigate challenges with grace. But if you're not taking action, if you're not actually doing the work, none of it matters. Zero. Nothing happens without action. Nothing changes without movement. Nothing transforms without execution. Action is the bridge between the world that exists and the world you want to create. It's the mechanism through which your internal vision becomes external reality. It's what separates dreamers from achievers, planners from executors, talkers from doers. And in our world today, there's an overwhelming abundance of dreamers and planners and talkers. What's rare, what's valuable, what's desperately needed is people who actually do the work. Think about all the people you know who have great ideas, brilliant ideas, ideas that could genuinely change things, create value, solve problems. Now think about how many of those ideas ever become reality. The percentage is devastatingly small. Why? Not because the ideas weren't good enough. Not because the people weren't smart enough. Not because the resources weren't available. But because those people never took action. They kept the ideas in their heads. They talked about them endlessly. They planned in minute detail, but they never executed. Starting is often the hardest part of taking action, and this is where most people get stuck forever. There's something about that initial movement, from thinking to doing, that creates massive resistance. It's like trying to push a boulder uphill. The beginning requires tremendous force. Your mind generates every possible excuse. It's not the right time. You need to prepare more. You should learn more first. Conditions aren't perfect. You might fail. You might succeed. And then what? Maybe you should wait until tomorrow. Maybe you should think about it some more. But here's what successful people understand. Starting doesn't require perfection. It doesn't require ideal conditions. It doesn't require complete certainty about the outcome. Starting requires only one thing, the courage to begin. Imperfectly, uncertainly, incompletely. You start where you are, with what you have, knowing what you know, even though it's not enough, even though you're not ready, even though you're scared. Because here's the secret that changes everything. You don't need to be ready to start. You get ready by starting. You don't need to know everything before you begin. You learn by doing. You don't need confidence before you act. You build confidence through action. The doing comes first. The certainty comes later. The mastery comes eventually. But all begins with that first imperfect step. And once you start, once you take that initial action, something magical happens. Momentum begins to build. Remember our discussion about Newton's first law. Objects at rest stay at rest, but objects in motion stay in motion. Once you're moving, continuing becomes easier than starting ever was. The second step is easier than the first. The third is easier than the second. Not because the steps themselves are easier, but because you now have momentum working for you instead of against you. Momentum is your greatest ally in achievement. It's what carries you through the days when motivation is low, when discipline is tested, when challenges seem overwhelming. When you have momentum, when you're consistently taking action day after day, you develop an unstoppable quality. You become harder to stop than you were to start. And that shift, that transition from "this is so hard to maintain" to "this would be hard to stop now," that's when you know you've truly integrated action into your identity. But let's address something crucial: the paralysis of overthinking. This kills more dreams than failure ever will. People get stuck in analysis paralysis, endlessly researching, perpetually preparing, constantly learning, but never doing. They tell themselves they're being smart, being careful, being thorough. But really, they're just being scared. They're using preparation as a socially acceptable form of procrastination. Yes, preparation has value. Planning matters. Learning is important. But there comes a point, and that point comes much sooner than most people think, where additional preparation is just delay, where more planning is just avoidance, where further learning is just fear wearing a disguise. At some point, you know enough. You have enough. You're ready enough. And the only thing left to do is do it. How do you know when you've reached that point? Honest answer: you probably never feel completely ready. If you're waiting to feel ready, you'll wait forever. Instead, ask yourself, do I know enough to take the next small step? Not to complete the entire journey, just to take one step. And the answer is almost always yes. So take that step. Then ask the question again. Take the next step. This is how massive action happens, not through one giant leap, but through countless small steps taken consistently. Let's talk about the compound effect of daily action, because this principle is absolutely foundational to achievement. Small actions don't stay small. They compound. They multiply. They create results that are exponentially greater than you'd expect from simply adding them up. This is why consistency beats intensity every time. The person who works on their goal for an hour every day will dramatically outperform the person who works intensely for 8 hours once a week, even though the total time is similar. Why? Because daily action creates momentum. It keeps the project alive in your mind. It prevents you from having to restart from scratch each time. It builds skills progressively. It generates compound interest on your efforts. Small daily actions, repeated over time, create massive transformations that seem almost miraculous to outside observers who didn't witness the daily grind that created them. Think about writing a book. Writing 500 words a day, which takes maybe 30 to 45 minutes, doesn't feel significant. It feels like nothing really. But maintain that for 6 months, and you've written a 90,000-word book. That's a full-length manuscript, from 30 minutes a day. That's the compound effect in action. The same principle applies to fitness, to business building, to relationship development, to skill acquisition, to everything that matters. But here's where most people falter. They start with massive action, riding a wave of motivation, going all in with unsustainable intensity. They work 16-hour days, They revolutionize everything at once. They make dramatic changes across their entire lives. And then they burn out. They crash. They can't maintain it. And they quit, often believing they failed when really they just approached it wrong. Sustainable massive action isn't about intensity alone. It's about consistency over time. It's about showing up every day, even when, especially when, you don't feel like it. It's about doing the work when it's boring, when it's hard, when results aren't visible yet, when no one is watching, when no one cares. That's where real achievers separate themselves from everyone else. Anyone can work hard when it's exciting. Champions work hard when it's mundane. There's also immense power in understanding that action creates clarity. When you're stuck in your head, trying to figure everything out before you start, everything seems complicated and confusing. Multiple paths seem possible. Decisions seem impossible. But once you start taking action, once you're actually doing the work, clarity emerges naturally. You see what works and what doesn't. You discover what you enjoy and what drains you. You find your path by walking it, not by standing at the trailhead studying maps. Action is the antidote to anxiety, to overwhelm, to confusion. When you're spinning in your head, unable to decide, unable to move forward, the solution is almost always to take action. Any action. The specific action matters less than you think. Just move. Just do something. Just start. Clarity comes from movement, not from thought. And let's be honest about fear, because fear is the primary thing that stops most people from taking massive action. Fear of failure. Fear of judgment. Fear of inadequacy. Fear of success and the responsibility it brings. These fears are normal, human, universal. Everyone experiences them. The difference between those who achieve and those who don't isn't the presence or absence of fear. It's the relationship with fear. Successful people feel the fear and act anyway. They don't wait for bravery. They don't try to eliminate the fear. They acknowledge it, thank it for trying to protect them, and then do the thing anyway. They understand that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's taking action despite fear. Every time you act in the face of fear, you're training yourself to be braver. You're proving to yourself that fear doesn't have to be the deciding factor. You're building the capability to move forward regardless of how you feel. Now let's talk about from intention to execution, because this is where rubber meets road. Intentions are beautiful. Goals are inspiring. Plans are impressive. But none of them change anything until they're executed, until they're done, until action transforms them from concepts into reality. The gap between intention and execution is where most people's lives happen, and it's a gap filled with excuses, delays, justifications, rationalizations. "I intended to" becomes the saddest phrase in the English language when repeated enough times. At the end of your life, no one, including you, will care what you intended. Only what you did matters. Only the actions you took, the work you completed, the value you created, the lives you touched through actual execution. So how do you bridge this gap? How do you become someone who executes instead of just intending? First, make your intention specific and concrete. "I want to get healthy" is too vague to execute. "I will walk for 20 minutes every morning before breakfast" is executable. The more specific your intention, the clearer the action required, the easier it is to actually do it. Second, remove ambiguity about when you'll act. Someday never comes. When I have time never arrives. Time isn't found, it's made. Schedule your action. Put it in your calendar. Treat it like a meeting with the most important person in your life. Because it is. That person is your future self, and they're depending on present you to take action. Third, eliminate decision fatigue by deciding once instead of repeatedly. Don't decide every morning whether to work out. Decide once that you work out every morning, and then just do it. The decision is already made. You're just executing. This saves tremendous mental energy and willpower for the actual work instead of wasting it on repeatedly deciding whether to do the work. Fourth, start before you're ready. Start scared. Start imperfectly. Start small. But start, because a year from now, you'll wish you had started today. 5 years from now, you'll look back at this moment as either the time you changed everything or the time you let another opportunity slip away. Which will it be? And finally, understand that massive action isn't just about quantity. It's also about focusing that action on high-leverage activities. You can be busy all day every day and accomplish nothing of significance if you're busy with low-value tasks. Massive action means doing the things that actually move the needle, that create real results, that compound over time. It means being willing to cut out, delegate, or minimize everything else so you can focus your best time, energy, and attention on the activities that genuinely matter. This requires ruthless prioritization. This requires saying no to good opportunities so you can say yes to great ones. This requires disappointing people sometimes, setting boundaries, protecting your time and energy like the precious resources they are. It's not selfish. It's strategic. It's necessary. It's how extraordinary things get accomplished. Remember this. You will never feel completely ready. You will never have perfect circumstances. You will never eliminate all fear. You will never have complete certainty. These things don't happen. So stop waiting for them. Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. That's all anyone can do. And it's enough. More than enough. It's everything. The art of taking massive action isn't complicated. It's challenging, yes. It requires discipline, persistence, courage. But it's not complicated. It's showing up consistently. It's doing the work when you don't feel like it. It's starting before you're ready. It's pushing through resistance. It's maintaining momentum. It's focusing on high-leverage activities. It's executing instead of just intending. And when you master this art, when taking action becomes your default response instead of thinking about taking action, everything changes. Your results change. Your confidence changes. Your life changes. You become someone who doesn't just dream and plan and hope. You become someone who does. Someone who executes. Someone who creates reality instead of just imagining it. That's the person who achieves extraordinary things. That's the person who looks back on their life with satisfaction instead of regret. That's the person you're capable of becoming. The only question is, will you take the action required to become them? The answer starts with what you do next. Right now, in this moment. What's the next action you can take toward your goal? Don't overthink it. Just do it. And then do the next thing. And the next. That's how you master the art of taking massive action. That's how you transform your life. One action at a time. Compounded over time. Until you become unstoppable. Conclusion. Your journey begins now. As we stand together at the threshold of this new beginning. As we reach the conclusion of this exploration into the power of discipline and action, let's take a moment to embrace the essence of everything we've discussed. Because it's not just about the words spoken or the ideas shared. It's about what you do with this knowledge from this moment forward. This is your moment. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Not when you feel ready. Right now. This is the moment for action. For stepping boldly into the life you've envisioned. For becoming the person you've always known you could be. Your journey unique. Full of unlimited potential. Bursting with possibilities, is waiting for you. It's a path that only you can walk. No one can walk it for you. No one can give you their results. No one can download their experience into your brain. You have to do the work. You have to take the steps. You have to live through the challenges and celebrate the victories. But here's the beautiful truth. You don't walk this path alone. Think of all the lessons we've shared as companions on this journey. They're guiding you, supporting you, lighting the way forward. The power of self-discipline that we explored, that silent engine driving success, that force that gets you moving when everything in you wants to stay still. The mastery over procrastination and laziness that we discussed, understanding these as the thieves of time they are, and learning to defeat them through immediate, deliberate action. The strength of positive habits that we examined, those small daily actions that compound into massive transformation, and the ability to transform challenges into opportunities, seeing every obstacle as a chance to grow stronger, wiser, more capable. These aren't just concepts to understand intellectually. They're tools to use practically. They're your allies in the battle for a better life. Weapons in your arsenal as you fight to become everything you're capable of becoming. You now have everything you need. The knowledge is yours. The strategies are clear. The only thing left is execution. Action. Actually doing it. So what step can you take today? What action, however small, will move you closer to your goals, your dreams, your vision for your life? It might be setting a new goal with clarity and specificity. It might be making a plan, breaking that big, overwhelming dream into small, manageable steps. It might be simply deciding to break free from old patterns, to stop being the person you've been, and start becoming the person you're meant to be. Whatever it is, the important thing, the only thing that matters, is to start. Take that step with confidence and conviction. And remember, keep your eyes fixed on the horizon. Your dreams, your aspirations, your vision for your life. They're not just fanciful hopes or wishful thinking or pleasant fantasies. They are destinations waiting to be reached. They are possibilities waiting to become realities. They are versions of your future self waiting for you to take the actions that bring them into existence. And every step you take, no matter how small, no matter how imperfect, no matter how uncertain, it's a step closer to those destinations. The journey ahead won't be easy. If I told you it would be, I'd be lying. There will be days when you doubt yourself, when progress seems impossible, when giving up feels like the only reasonable option. There will be challenges that test every ounce of your resolve. There will be failures that hurt, setbacks that disappoint, obstacles that seem insurmountable. This is guaranteed. This is part of the journey. This is where most people quit. But you're not most people. You're someone who's invested time in understanding these principles. You're someone who's ready to apply them. You're someone who understands that the journey itself, with all its twists and turns, with all its ups and downs, with all its challenges and triumphs, that journey is shaping you into the person you're meant to be. It's in the doing, the striving, the overcoming, that we truly grow, that we discover our real strength, that we become who we're capable of becoming. So embrace the journey with all its complexity. Embrace the process with all its difficulty. Embrace the growth that comes with it, even when that growth is uncomfortable, even when it requires you to leave behind old versions of yourself, even when it demands more than you think you have to give, because you have more, far more, capabilities you haven't discovered yet, strength you haven't accessed yet, potential you haven't unleashed yet. Celebrate your victories along the way. Every small win, every completed task, every moment you choose discipline over laziness, action over procrastination, courage over fear, celebrate it. These victories matter. They're the building blocks of your transformation. Learn from your setbacks when they come. Don't see them as failures. See them as feedback. See them as lessons. See them as necessary parts of the process. And always keep your eyes fixed on your goals, on your vision, on the future you're creating through your daily actions. The path to success is not a straight line. It never has been for anyone, and it won't be for you. It's a winding road, filled with detours and obstacles and unexpected turns. but it's also filled with learning opportunities, with chances to grow, with moments that define you, with experiences that transform you. Embrace these opportunities for what they are, the curriculum of life, teaching you exactly what you need to learn to become who you need to be. I urge you to hold on to the sense of purpose and passion that brought you here today, that fire inside you, that drive, that desire for more, for better, for different. Don't let it fade. Let it be the force that propels you forward, especially on the days when forward motion feels impossible. Let it be the light that guides your path when the way ahead seems dark. You have within you, right now, in this moment, the strength, the determination, the resilience to overcome any obstacle and reach any summit you set your sights on. Believe in yourself, even when, especially when, no one else does. Believe in your ability to make a difference, to create change, to build something meaningful. Believe not based on past evidence, because your past doesn't determine your future. Believe based on your commitment to action, to growth, to becoming more. That belief, coupled with consistent action, is unstoppable. As we conclude, remember this. This is not the end. This is the beginning. A beautiful, exciting, challenging beginning of a life lived with intention, with purpose, with relentless pursuit of excellence. A life where you're not a passive observer, but an active creator. A life where you force yourself to get it done instead of waiting for perfect conditions. A life where action, not intention, defines you. Carry these lessons with you. Let them become part of who you are. Let them guide your decisions, inform your actions, shape your character. Let them be the wind in your sails, propelling you towards your dreams with unstoppable momentum. So go forth from here with a heart full of courage and a mindset focused on action. The world is waiting for your unique contributions, your gifts, your dreams realized, your passion unleashed. You have everything you need to create the life you desire. You've always had it. The knowledge is there. The capability is there. The potential is there. What's been missing is the decision to act, to commit, to force yourself to get it done regardless of how you feel, regardless of the obstacles, regardless of the fear. It's time to take action, not to think about it more, not to prepare more, not to wait for better circumstances, but to actually do it, to make those dreams a reality through daily, consistent, determined action. The journey ahead is yours to shape, yours to walk, yours to win. And I have absolute confidence that you can do this, that you will do this, because you're not the same person you were when you started reading this. You've changed already. You've been equipped. You've been prepared. Now you just need to execute. Thank you for sharing this time with me. Thank you for being willing to hear difficult truths. Thank you for being open to change. Now let's go out there and make it happen. Your incredible journey awaits, filled with more potential than you can imagine. I can't wait to see where it takes you, who you become, what you accomplish. Here's to your success, to your growth, to the amazing life you're going to build through sheer force of will and consistent action. Let's make it a journey to remember. Let's make it a life worth living. Let's force ourselves to get it done, starting right now, right here, with this next step. Your future self is watching. Make them proud. The time is now. The moment is here. The action is yours to take. Get it done.